Welcome back to the deep dive. We are doing something a little different today, something that I think is really going to challenge a fundamental assumption you probably have about the way the world works.
Yeah, specifically the working world.
Right, the working world.
Yeah.
Because we usually divide business into two very distinct buckets, right? On one side, you have the hard stuff, the math.
The spreadsheets.
Exactly. The P&L statements, supply chain logistics, burn rates, that is the domain of the CFO, the engineers, the quants.
It's the measurable stuff, the things you could put in a chart.
And then on the other side, you have the soft stuff, the human stuff. Leadership charisma, company culture, morale, feelings.
Right, and the poet side of the corporation.
Yeah, and the assumption has always been that you can measure the hard stuff, but the soft stuff, that's art, that's, vibes, that's something you handle with a pizza party on a Friday.
It really is the classic dichotomy, and those two sides rarely speak the same language.
But what if I told you that distinction is completely obsolete?
Which is a huge claim to make.
It is. But what if management doesn't have to be in a form based on gut instinct? What if it could be a hard science?
And we aren't just talking about basic HR analytics here, like tracking how many sick days people take. We are talking about calculating the exact algebra of conscience.
The algebra of conscience, that is such a heavy title.
It really is. We are looking at a methodology today that takes the messy, chaotic reality of human psychology, our fears, our tribal instincts, our need for trust, and integrates it into a rigorous mathematical framework.
Specifically, we're looking at how 39 global SD-Test polls are integrated into a dynamic programming model.
Right, a DPM.
So we are basically going to turn the soul of a company into a solvable equation today. And to do this justice, we are going to walk through a very specific presentation.
15 slides.
15 slides titled The Algebra of Conscience. We're going to decode the hidden wiring of an organization, slide by slide. So let's not waste any time.
Let's do it.
On the slide number 1, an illustration is depicted showing a complex network graph on the left connecting to a vibrant, multicolored spiral shell on the right.
And this image really sets the stage for the collision of worlds we are about to discuss.
It does.
On the left, you see that network graph. Blue nodes, sharp lines. That represents the data, the cold, hard input.
It looks very technical, very Silicon Valley.
It is. And then on the right, you have that spiral shell. It's organic, it's colorful, it looks like it's expanding. That represents the spiral dynamics model of human development.
And right in the middle, the title text reads, The Algebra of Conscience, which actually references some older work, right?
Yeah, it references Vladimir Lefebvre.
Who was he?
He was a fascinating figure, a Soviet-American mathematician working during the Cold War. He had this radical idea that you could actually model ethical choices mathematically.
Like putting morality into an equation.
Precisely. He believed that things like guilt, shame, and the choice between good and evil weren't just philosophical debates, they were functions that could be mapped. And what this presentation is proposing is taking that theoretical moral math and plugging it into a massive real-world data set.
So we are moving from the old goal of cost minimization to a completely new goal, which is maximizing stability.
Right. Stabilizing the human element.
So let's see what that shift actually looks like visually. On the slide number 2, an illustration is depicted comparing two sides. On the left, the old world is shown as gray boxes labeled cut costs, reduce staff, and increase efficiency.
Yeah, and this is the world most of us live in. It's the chainsaw owl approach to management.
It looks so depressing, just these rigid gray blocks.
Because it's mechanical. In this view, a company is just a machine. An employee is a cog.
Right.
If the machine is too heavy or too expensive, you just remove a cog. You don't ask the cog how it feels about being removed.
Obviously not.
And you don't ask the neighboring cogs if they're sad their friend is gone. You just look at the weight savings.
It's a linear process. Action leads to result. You
Yeah.
fire Dave, you save Dave's salary, end of calculation.
Exactly. But look at the right side. On the slide number 2, an illustration is depicted showing the new world as a colorful, glowing spiral shape.
It's totally different.
And there's a shift labeled right there.
Yeah.
Shift from actions to profiles.
Shift from actions to profiles. That feels like the crux of this whole thing.
It is the fundamental disconnect. In the new world, you can't just look at what you are doing, the action. You have to look at who you are doing it to, the profile.
Because Dave isn't just a cog. Dave is a person with a psychological profile.
Yes, and the team Dave leaves behind. They have a profile too. The quote on the slide says, "The goal is to build a complex, multi-level decision-making model where transitions depend on fears, trust, empathy, and stress.
So if I'm an old world manager, I fired Dave to save $50,000. But if I'm a new world manager using this algebra, what do I actually do?
You calculate the ripple effect.
Okay.
You ask, if I fire Dave, does the fear vector of the remaining staff spike?
Which it probably would.
Right. And if it does that crash productivity by 20%? If productivity crashes, I might lose $200,000 in output just to save Dave's $50,000 salary.
So the old world math says you won, but the new world math proves you actually lost.
Exactly. It captures the invisible costs. It makes the invisible visible.
But to catch those invisible signals, you need really good sensors, right? You can't just guess how people are feeling.
No, absolutely not.
Which brings us to the next slide. On the slide number 3, an illustration is depicted showing a stack of 5 colored layers, looking like a geological slice, next to a target with a dart hitting the center.
This is the data engine. This answers the big question, where do we actually get the numbers? We aren't just sending out a basic survey asking, hey, are you happy?
It's way deeper than that.
Much deeper. These are the 5 layers of sensing. And most companies, they only look at the top layer.
The red layer at the top, which is labeled behavior and actions.
Right. Polls 1, 2, and 10. This is the visible stuff. Did you show up on time? Did you hit your sales quota? Did you click on the IT phishing test email?
The kind of stuff that shows up on an annual performance review.
Exactly. But that is a lagging indicator. By the time someone stops showing up on time, they've already mentally quit months ago.
True.
So you need to go down to the yellow layer. Motivation and values.
This maps to polls 3, 4, and 7. This is the why.
What drives them? Are they driven by money, which is an orange spiral dynamic stage? By security, which is blue? By community, which is green?
And then below that, you have the green layer, leadership and teams.
How do they relate to authority? Do they actually trust the boss?
Yeah.
Or are they just pretending to?
Then deeper still, the orange layer, psychology and self-regulation.
This is the internal engine. Are they burnt out? Do they have any sense of well-being?
Yeah.
You can have a top performer who is hitting every single target in that red top layer, but they're absolutely miserable and sleep-deprived in the orange layer.
And if you don't measure that orange layer, you think everything is fine right up until they have a heart attack or just walk out the door.
Exactly. And finally, the bottom purple layer is demographics.
The structural barriers, age, gender, location.
Right. And that target on the right signifies precision. To hit the bullseye of understanding human motivation, you need all 5 layers. You need a multi-dimensional vector. You just can't look at actions alone.
That is a staggering amount of data. I mean, capturing that for every single employee.
It's massive.
Yeah.
And to give you a sense of the scale of the intelligence behind this, let's go to the next slide.
Yeah. On the slide number 4, an illustration is depicted showing a globe on the left labeled global context and a schematic diagram on the right labeled system boundaries.
The numbers here are they're staggering. 109 countries.
Yeah.
26 languages. Over 10,000 responses.
But the most important number is the one at the very bottom. 13,000 correlations.
13,000. That is the brain of the system.
Because raw data is just noise, right?
Right. A correlation is a story. It tells you that statistically, across 109 countries, a person who is afraid of losing their job, let's call that point A, is 40% more likely to discriminate against older colleagues. That's point B.
That's a real correlation.
Yes. And a human brain can maybe hold, 3 or 4 of those patterns in its head at once? Like, oh, generally unhappy people work slower? That's one. This model holds 13,000 of those cause and effect links simultaneously.
That is the global context. What about the system boundaries on the right?
That defines the sandbox we're playing in. We are modeling a closed loop. Management acts on the staff, the subject acts on the object, and the staff reacts back. It's a feedback loop. And crucially, look at the note there. Forecast horizon 1 to 6 months.
That's a pretty short window. Why not forecast out 5 years?
Because human emotion is incredibly volatile. You can't predict how your team will feel in 5 years, but you can predict with very high accuracy how they will feel in November if you cut their bonuses in October. This is a tactical navigation tool, not a crystal ball for the distant future.
Okay, so we have the layers, we have the global data. Now we need to turn this into the algebra part. This is where it gets nerdy, and I absolutely love it.
It's the best part.
On the slide number 5, an illustration is depicted showing a mathematical formula S of T equals purple of T, red of T, ... trust of T above a graph, with a line charting a path across vertical colored stripes representing the spiral dynamics stages.
This is the core concept, formalizing the soul.
Formalizing the soul, it sounds like something out of a sci-fi novel.
It basically means we are turning feelings into a state vector. In physics, if you want to know where a rocket is going, you need its state vector. Position, velocity, acceleration.
If you have those numbers, you know the future of the rocket.
Exactly. And here we are doing that for the company culture. S of t is the psychological position of the company at time t, and that vector is made up of components.
Let's look at the example they give on the slide. It says S of t equals purple 0.3, red 0.2, fear 0.6, trust 0.4.
Okay, let's unpack that profile. This is a hypothetical team. They have a high purple score, 0.3. Purple in spiral dynamics is the tribal stage. It's about safety, rituals, the in-group.
And spirits, right?
Metaphorically. It's superstitious. It relies heavily on the chieftain figure. Then you have red at 0.2. Red is the impulsive, power-driven stage. It's the terrible twos of psychology, the warrior mindset.
Okay, and then look at the psychological metrics. Fear is high at 0.6. Trust is low at 0.4.
So put it all together. You have a team that is highly tribal, somewhat impulsive, very scared, and doesn't trust anyone.
That sounds like a team in complete survival mode.
It is a terrified tribe huddled in a cave, basically waiting for a strong leader to either save them or kill them.
Now, imagine you're a manager who just walks into that room. If you don't know the state vector, you might walk in with a glossy PowerPoint about digital transformation and agile synergy.
And you would be speaking a completely foreign language. They're in a purple-red survival mode. You are talking orange-green innovation.
Right.
They won't just ignore you. They will actively reject you. They will literally see you as a threat to their safety.
Because you aren't reading the room, or rather, you aren't reading the vector.
Exactly. You have to know the state S of t before you can act.
Which brings us perfectly to the action part.
Yeah.
Once you know the team is a terrified tribe, what levers can you pull? On the slide number 6, an illustration is depicted showing 5 capsule shapes labeled with variables U1 through U7.
These are the controls. In math, it usually represents the control input. These are the pills you can prescribe as a manager.
It's a menu of management decisions. Let's look at them. U1, sent on unpaid vacation.
A harsh directive measure.
U2, nothing changed.
Passive.
U4, reduced salaries. U6, remote work. U7, reduced staff.
These are standard tools in the toolkit. Every manager has these. But the old world manager picks them purely based on the P&L. Like, I need to save cash, so I pick U7, fire people.
But the New World manager picks them based on the impact on the state vector.
Yes. And this is where the algebra gets absolutely fascinating. Because the exact same pill has completely different side effects depending on the patient.
That is the key insight for me. Let's look at the next slide. This is actually my favorite one in the whole deck. On the slide number 7, an illustration is depicted showing a network node diagram. A central box labeled U1 unpaid vacation connects to 3 colored dots, purple, orange, and green, with specific numerical correlation values.
This is the hidden wiring. This shows how an action filters through a specific mindset. Let's take that action, U1 unpaid vacation. In the standard view, this is a terrible thing. You are taking money away from people. Everyone should hate it, right?
You would definitely think so, but look at the data here. The purple node has a correlation of positive 0.1542. It's positive. The text says accepts as ritual sacrifice.
This is the counterintuitive power of the purple mindset. Remember, purple is tribal. It values the survival of the group above the individual. If the chieftain says, the winter is harsh, the harvest failed, we must all fast for 2 weeks so the tribe doesn't die. The purple mindset accepts this. It feels like a ritual. We are suffering together. It actually increases bonding.
That is incredible. So for a purple team, unpaid vacation isn't a punishment at all. It's a shared duty.
Yes. But now, look at the orange node.
Orange has a negative correlation, negative 0.1249, rejects as inefficient.
Orange is the achiever. The Wall Street mindset. The Silicon Valley scaling mindset.
Right. The hustlers.
To an orange employee, their salary is their literal scorecard.
Right.
If you tell them to take unpaid vacation, you are telling them you are losing. You are putting a stop sign in front of their career. They don't feel ritual bonding. They feel blocked. They feel like the company is a loser.
So they'll probably just quit.
Oh, they will update their LinkedIn profile that afternoon.
And then there is the green node, positive correlation again, plus 0.1084, except if it saves jobs.
Green is the community mindset. It's all about empathy. If you frame it as, hey, we are doing this unpaid leave so we don't have to fire Bob in accounting, the green employee says, okay, I will take the hit for Bob. They do it entirely out of solidarity.
So just think about this. You are a CEO. You have one action unpaid vacation. If your company is a purple family business, this action saves you.
Yep.
If your company is a green nonprofit, this action saves you. But if your company is an orange sales organization, this action utterly destroys you.
Same action, opposite results, all depending on the hidden wiring.
There's a sidebar here that mentions U4, reduced salaries. There's another weird one there. Yellow rejects it because it's rigid, but red accepts it with a positive correlation of plus 0.0593. Why does red, the power-hungry stage, accept a pay cut?
Because red respects force. Red operates on the law of the jungle. If the boss is strong enough to take your money, well, that's just reality. The big dog eats first.
Wow.
They might not be happy about it, but they respect the absolute audacity of the power move. They accept the hierarchy.
It's so primal.
It is, and that's the whole point. We are primal creatures wearing business suits.
So if you don't understand these colors, you are constantly causing friction, and that friction is visualized perfectly on the next slide. On the slide number 8, an illustration is depicted showing two bar charts. The left chart is subject management, and the right chart is object staff.
This is the Tower of Babel scenario. Just look at the profiles.
The management profile on the left is dominated by red at 27% and orange also at 27%.
So management is aggressive. They want power, which is red, and results, which is orange. Their internal monologue is basically win, conquer, faster, more profit.
But look at the staff profile on the right. It is dominated by blue and yellow, both at 27%.
Blue is the order stage. Rules, bureaucracy, safety, truth. Yellow is the systemic stage. Competence, knowledge, integration.
So you have a management team screaming, break the rules and win, at a staff that wants, follow the rules and be competent.
It creates a total disconnect. Management tries to motivate the staff with orange bonuses, like hit this aggressive target and get a Rolex.
Right.
The blue staff looks at that and just gets anxiety because the target feels risky and unsafe.
Yeah.
The yellow staff looks at it and thinks it's an inefficient, poorly designed incentive structure.
So the incentive completely fails.
And management gets frustrated. They're like, why aren't they working harder? We offer the money. Because money, the orange currency, isn't their currency. Safety, the blue currency, is.
Is there any common ground here at all? I see one bar that looks similar.
Yes, the green bar. Both sides have green at 20%. The slide calls this the compromise zone.
So human connection.
Exactly. If this red-orange management wants to get through to the blue-yellow staff, they have to stop speaking war language.
They have to switch to community language.
They have to leverage that shared green value. We're doing this for the team. That is the only bridge they have.
If they don't find that bridge, if they just keep pushing the red button, what happens?
Disaster. System collapses. And it collapses in ways you really don't expect.
Which brings us to the butterfly effect. On the slide number 9, an illustration is depicted showing a flowchart. It starts with Action U7, reduce staff, and ends in a red box labeled Leadership Legitimacy Crash.
This maps the chain reaction of a layoff.
Let's trace it. You decide to fire people. U7, that's the input.
The first effect is obvious. Spikes fear of job loss, which is pole 3. Everyone is scared they're next.
But then the path splits. The top path says destroys trust, pole 16.
I fear kills trust. That's a direct link, very standard.
But the bottom path is the one that really caught my eye, increases ageism, pole 11.
This is a tertiary effect that the 13,000 correlations predict.
Why does firing people lead to ageism? I don't get it.
Think about the sociology of fear. When resources become scarce, like during layoffs, the tribe turns on itself. People start looking for scapegoats to protect their own position. The younger, cheaper employees start looking at the older, more expensive employees in the break room and thinking, why is he still here? He's deadwood. He costs too much.
And the older employees look at the young ones and think, cheap, inexperienced labor is replacing us.
It turns into a generational war. The fear activates latent biases. The social fabric tears right along the fault lines of age.
And both of those paths, the loss of trust and the rise of ageism, lead to the final red box, leadership legitimacy crash.
And that is the point of no return. It's not just that morale is low. It's that the staff no longer views the leadership as valid. You have lost your authority to lead.
You might still be the CEO on paper, but in reality, you're just a guy in a suit that everyone hates.
And the scary part is the spreadsheet that recommended the layoffs didn't show a legitimacy crash. It just showed save $2 million in payroll.
The spreadsheet was totally blind to the butterfly effect, but the SD-test model sees it coming.
Exactly.
So how do we see it coming? We need a simulator. We need to be able to run the scenario before we actually fire anyone. On the slide number 10, an illustration is depicted showing a prism analogy. An action of K-line enters a box labeled correlation matrix, 13,000 links, and refracting out the other side are multiple colored lines labeled new state S of t plus 1.
This is the transition function. The math is S of t plus 1 equals function of S of t, U of k, and c.
Which translates to the future state equals the current state plus the action, filtered through the context.
Correct. This is the predictive engine. You feed in your proposed action, say cut salaries. The engine runs it through those 13,000 correlations, including the weird ones like salary cuts increase red respect, and it spits out the new psychological profile of the company.
So you can literally see the future. If I do this, fear goes up 10%, but ritual bonding goes up 20%.
It allows you to A/B test your leadership. You can simulate 5 different strategies and see which one leads the company in the best shape.
But best shape is subjective, isn't it? Like, is best saving the most money? Or is best making people happy?
That is the ultimate question, and to answer it, you need a scoring system.
Right. On the slide number 11, an illustration is depicted showing a balanced scale. On the left side are heavy weights labeled fears 0.9 and direct actions 1.0. On the right side are lighter weights, niche culture 0.3, and self-trust 0.4. The formula J equals sigma of weight times impact is displayed.
This is the scoring system. In dynamic programming, this is called the objective function, denoted by J. You were trying to maximize J.
And looking at the weights, this is where the conscience part really comes in. Direct actions, the cost of doing business has a weight of 1.0. That makes sense. Money is heavy.
Yep.
But fears has a weight of 0.9.
That is the radical shift. In standard management, financial cost is weighted at 1.0, and employee fear is usually weighted at 0.0.
It's treated as an externality, something that just doesn't matter.
But this model says fear is almost as heavy as money. It says that fear is a cost, a heavy cost. If you save $1 million, which is good, but you terrify the staff, which is bad, the negative weight of the fear might actually cancel out the positive weight of the savings. The overall score, J, drops.
And well-being is weighted at 0.8. So the model mathematically penalizes you for destroying the mental health of your team.
It forces you to balance the equation. It proves mathematically that a toxic workplace is an inefficient workplace.
It's not just nice to treat people well, it's optimal for the function, J.
Exactly.
That's
Don't be a jerk and makes it a mathematical theorem. Stability requires buy-in. Buy-in requires trust. Trust requires low fear. The math just formalizes what we already know in our hearts.
So we have the engine, we have the score. Now, how do we drive this car? What are the actual strategies? On the slide number 12, an illustration is depicted showing a 2x2 matrix grid with specific conditions and actions.
This is the contextual navigation, the adaptive protocol.
It tells you what to do based on where you currently are. Let's look at quadrant 1. The condition is high fear, high purple red. This is our survival tried again. The recommended action is soft measures, U1, unpaid vacation.
Right, we discussed this. You appeal to the purple need for ritual sacrifice. You don't fire them because that breaks the tribe. You ask them to suffer together.
Quadrant 2 is low trust, high orange. This is the skeptical sales floor. Action is innovation, U9.
If trust is low, don't try to use green connection methods. They won't believe you. Orange needs to win. So give them a new game. Tell them, we are pivoting to AI. We are launching a new product. Distract them with an opportunity. Appeal to their ambition.
Then quadrant 3, high ageism risks. Action is avoid salary cuts, U4.
This acts as a safety rail. The model sees that the conditions are ripe for discrimination. If you cut salaries now, you will trigger a massive lawsuit, so it blocks that move.
And quadrant 4, low well-being. Everyone is just exhausted. Action is stability, U2, do nothing.
This is honestly my favorite recommendation.
Yeah.
You too, do nothing.
It's so rare to hear consultants say, just stop.
But it's crucial. If the organism is sick, if the system is overheated, the absolute best thing you can do is stop intervening. Stop the reorgs. Stop the new initiatives. Just let people do their jobs and rest. Give the system a break.
Do nothing as a strategic imperative. I'm going to frame that on my wall.
It is often the path to the highest J score.
So you make these moves step by step. On the slide number 13, an illustration is depicted showing a complex line graph with nodes labeled with numbers like 1:3, 2:2, tracing a thick blue path toward the colorful spiral shell on the right.
This is the MDP career path.
Yeah.
MDP stands for Markov Decision Process.
It kind of looks like a subway map.
It represents the journey over time, month 1, month 2, month 3. At each step, the model calculates the optimal move to keep the score J high. It traces a blue path through all the chaos.
So it's a GPS, like recalculating.
Yep.
In 2 months, implement hybrid work.
Exactly. It navigates you from crisis to stabilization by choosing the path of least psychological resistance.
Let's talk about a specific navigation challenge then, a real-world one. On the slide number 14, an illustration is depicted showing a case study, the remote work dilemma. There is a home office icon.
This is the ultimate battleground of the 2020s.
The data here is split perfectly. The blue stage accepts remote work with a plus 0.071 correlation, but the green stage rejects it, negative 0.08.
This explains exactly why the return to office debate is so incredibly heated. It's a clash of values. Blue is about order and safety. I am safe at home. I can follow the rules. I am productive here. They love remote work.
But green is about community.
Right. I am lonely. I can't feel team energy. I miss the coffee talk. They hate remote work.
So if you're a manager and you say, everyone back to the office, you alienate the blues. If you say, everyone stay home, you alienate the greens.
You lose 50% of your people either way.
So what does the model recommend we do?
Strategic resolution hybrid model. But not just, come in whenever. A designed hybrid.
The text says, satisfies blue safety needs while creating specific virtual rituals to satisfy the green need for connection.
You have to engineer the solution. You give blue the structure. Monday and Friday are work-from-home days. That satisfies their need for hard rules. Then you create rituals for Green Wednesday is team lunch day, mandatory fun. You satisfy their need for contact.
You are hacking the culture to maximize the score for everyone.
That is the power of the algebra. It resolves the conflict structurally.
Which brings us to the end. We've reached the final slide. On the slide number 15, an illustration is depicted showing a 5-step linear process arrow. Survey, profile, weight, model, act.
The SD-Navigator blueprint?
It's the user manual for all of this. Step 1, survey. Measure fear, trust, well-being.
Use the sensors we talked about.
Step 2, profile. Map the vector.
Know exactly who you're dealing with.
Step 3, weight. Assign importance.
Decide your values. How much does fear actually matter to you? Set the J.
Step 4, model. Run the simulation.
Check for those butterfly effects before they happen.
Step 5, act. Execute the control. And then
you loop back to step 1, survey again. Because once you act, the world changes, the vector changes. You have to navigate from the new position.
It's a continuous loop, turning the algebra of conscience into a management science.
It is a profound shift in how we lead.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit more. We've gone through the deck, we've seen the math, but I want to talk about the implications of all this. We are essentially talking about an algorithm that tells us how to treat people.
Yes, we are.
And there's a part of me, maybe my green side, that feels a little weird about that. Should an algorithm really decide if we have a team lunch?
I totally understand that hesitation. It feels cold. But let me flip it on you. Is it better to have a human manager decide?
Well, a human has empathy.
Does he? Or does he just have bias?
Yeah.
Think about it. A red manager doesn't naturally understand a green employee. He thinks the green employee is soft. He might force the green employee to compete, thinking he is helping them grow, but actually he is just crushing them.
That's true. The manager assumes everyone thinks like him.
That human empathy is flawed because it's projected from the manager's own profile. But the algorithm doesn't make that mistake. The algorithm listens to the green employee and the blue employee and the red employee equally.
It weights all their fears in the equation.
Exactly. It sees that action X will hurt the green employee, and it penalizes that action in the score J.
So in a really weird way, the algorithm is almost more empathetic than the human because it has the capacity to process the feelings of 5,000 people simultaneously.
It's scalable empathy. It allows you to consider the conscience of the entire collective, not just the loudest people in the boardroom.
That is a wildly provocative thought. We usually think of AI and math as cold and calculating, but here the calculation is literally forcing us to be warmer.
It forces us to align with the conscience. If you define the weights correctly, if you weight, well-being high, the math demands that you be a good leader.
It demands that you take care of the tribe. We have covered a huge amount of ground today. From the 5 layers of sensing, to the hidden correlations of unpaid vacation, to the GPS of corporate culture.
It's a dense topic for sure.
But the core takeaway for me is this. Your organization is not a machine. It's an organism. And you can't fix an organism with a wrench. You need to understand its biology.
You need to read the state vector.
I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over. We've talked about how this algebra of conscience can predict how a team will react. It can predict fear, trust, and legitimacy. If an algorithm can understand the soul of your company better than you can, does that make the algorithm the true leader? Or does it just mean that leadership is a skill we can finally decode and download?
And if empathy is computable, what else is?
Fascinating stuff. Thank you for diving deep with us into the algebra of conscience. Check your state vector, watch out for those butterfly effects, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.